Brunswick just proposed pay transparency laws. The real shift needs to be in how decisions get made. The pay might be transparent, but the decisions, well, they still won't be. The moment I saw it, I remember. I was working in HR, looking at a compensation spreadsheet, titles, salaries, years of experience. It was all laid out really clearly. At first, nothing really stood out. Then I started comparing. Same role, same level, same expectations, but the pay, it wasn't always the same. Some employees were earning significantly less, like not slightly, significantly. And when I looked closer, there was a really clear pattern. Many of the lower salaries belonged to women, and those women had taken mat leave. The internal logic, though never formally stated in a policy, of course, was simple. These women had taken time away from work. That meant fewer years of continuous experience. Fewer years of continuous experience meant lower perceived value, and lower perceived value meant lower pay. From a management perspective, this was seen as rational, even fair. They weren't saying that these employees were less capable. They were saying that they had less experience on paper. But that distinction didn't matter in practice because it still resulted in women being paid far less for doing the same job. And that's when the real question hit me. What would happen if everyone could see this? Not just the final numbers, but the reasoning behind the final numbers. What if everyone could see that mat leave was interpreted as a reduction in value? That experience had been counted differently depending on who you were. It wouldn't be a simple conversation about fairness. It would be a challenge to how decisions were being made in the first place. This is where pay transparency becomes a lot more complicated. On paper, requiring ranges and protecting pay discussions is a clear step forward. It introduces visibility. It creates pressure to explain decisions. It reduces the ability to quietly maintain gaps, but it doesn't automatically change how those decisions are made. Because the issue was never the absence of information, it was how value was being interpreted. In that organization, no one openly said they valued women less. Instead, the language was much more neutral. Years of experience, time in role, career progression, all these things sound purely objective, measurable, defensible, but they were being applied in a way that produced consistent differences. And those differences were accepted because they could be explained. If that same organization were required to post salary ranges, the structure would look more consistent. If employees were allowed to discuss pay openly, more people might notice discrepancies. But the underlying logic, well, that could still exist. Maternity leave could still be counted as lost time. Experience could still be interpreted narrowly. Decisions could still be made quickly and justified later. The system would be far more visible, but not necessarily more fair because transparency shows you the outcome. It doesn't change the lens used to produce it. Culture and leadership still drive behavior in that company. And in that organization, pay wasn't just unclear, it was unspoken. People didn't compare, they didn't question, they didn't feel comfortable raising concerns. That culture mattered more than any policy or law. Because even if transparency had been required, behavior probably would have still followed the same pattern. People would hesitate, leaders would still control how information was framed, decisions would still be explained in ways that felt acceptable. Organizations adapt, they find ways to operate within new rules without fundamentally changing how they think. Pay transparency is seen as progress, and it is. It creates accountability. It forces conversations that might not otherwise happen. It makes certain gaps harder to ignore, but it doesn't address the deeper issue that value is not just measured, it's interpreted. And those interpretations are shaped by experience, assumptions, and what feels familiar. You can standardize salary bands and pay transparency, but you can't standardize how people are perceived. And those perceptions ultimately drive pay outcomes. Pay might be transparent, but the decisions, well, they still aren't. And until organizations look more closely at how those decisions are made, not just how they're presented, transparency will only take us part of the way. It will show us more, but it won't on its own change what we're seeing.